Kia ora, and thanks so much for tuning into episode 74 of Access Granted, our weekly Kiwi tech and media podcast. I'm Raj, my background's film, television, design, media, and making things happen.
And I'm Mike, and my background is explaining stuff, connecting people, and getting things done. And you're here because you're a Kiwi that either works in or has a great passion for tech or media in New Zealand. We're in Golding's, a little bit loud today. Hopefully the sound quality is up to Simon Morton's standards.
We'll see.
And we'll make sure that he can pass this and rate this for us. That'd be fantastic. Cheers, Simon.
Thank you.
Right, episode 74. This is one with one of those people that I have long admired from afar for many reasons. Not her technical skills, for want of a better phrase, but also for her honesty and strength and passions in what she believes in and how she expresses them. And during this chat, it was a revelation to hear just how hard it can be for many people in tech, and how Aurynn particularly went through it and out the other side. Oh, and she challenges me big time, and that's why we are definitely working on having Aurynn as a regular on the show. So fingers crossed that we can make that happen.
Absolutely.
Enjoy.
We're here at the
We're
Goldings.
here at the Goldings.
Loving it. American Pale Ale, just saying. It's great.
It is quite nice.
What do you got?
American Pale Ale.
Good George, I think.
George. Yeah.
Good George, like it. And I got the twisted top, twisted ankle.
Same as
Ankle.
Same, so
Two good
two good
Georges.
Georges and a twisted top.
Done.
Got to be happy.
Yeah.
And that voice that you heard, apart from myself and Raj, obviously, was Aurynn. Aurynn Shaw from, right, here we go.
Drum roll.
IRL.
Oh!
Close.
As in, oh no, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing Ealer, the Scottish, no, Irish, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go, I am.
Yeah.
We'll get to why and how that name, but first, Aurynn,
Yes.
what makes you happy?
What makes me happy?
Yes.
Taking photographs. Making photographs. Doing that thing.
Oh, yeah?
I looked at the...
We see the camera over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
there it
camera.
is, right there.
It's a good day today. Have you taken some out today?
I've not, but I always have a camera with me. It's like the thing to do. If you don't have a camera, how can you take pictures, right?
And you've got a
That's
real
a good
camera. So this, I'm pointing to our recording studio, which is Raj's iPhone.
Telephone.
Not good enough?
It's not that it's not good enough. It's that
It's all right.
it's that you can do very... Okay, imagine taking photographs as like a circle, right? And most of the circle is you can do with the iPhone, right? Like it covers 95% of the space of the things you will want to take pictures of and doing it well.
Yes.
But there's like that outer rim where it's not very good.
Yeah.
And that will be things like really up-close photography or that really cool blur effect that people like, getting really strong blurs in the background.
Yes.
That's the
Field
stuff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, eh?
I
You never
do
get a
love
decent
that.
one of those out of here.
And that's the sort of stuff that DSLRs are good at. And that's why I carry it, is I want to have slightly more flexibility. And then the trade-off is this thing weighs like half a kilogram. So I'm wandering around with half a kilogram worth of camera on my shoulder and my phone and... Yeah, which one do I grab first?
Well, that's the question. I was going to say, which one do you, I suppose, if it's there,
It's always the one you have on you is the right one to
but
have.
if Aurynn has
Yeah.
that on her all the time, then excellent photographs all the time.
Yeah.
Well, excellent is not necessarily the right
Yeah,
word.
okay.
Photographs, and we'll decide whether or not they're excellent later.
Yes.
Do you ever think about using a little clip-on thing for the phone? Have you tried one of those?
I've looked at
The
them. I've looked at them, and then I go. I have to take my phone out and then clip it on and then go. Whereas that is hanging on my right hip, and I grab it and I'm going almost immediately.
Rapid fire.
Photographs.
I'm sorry?
Photographs. Photography.
Yes.
You've always done photography. What is it? Is it? Did you discover it yesterday? What is it about photography?
I've
I'd be
been
surprised if it was the last one. Yes, just take it up.
just taking now. I can point out like times when I was 6 and I had my mom's little 110 photo camera, which was those weird cartridges for film. Like you never actually saw the film like you do with the
They were
35 mil.
long and they had the bubbly end of the tip.
Yeah, those are the ones.
Like
I had one of
orangey or
those.
yellowy. And
Yeah, that's what I had to start with, and I was 6
Yeah.
having this thing, and it was great. I would take photos of like my teddy bear and just ridiculous things. And then for a very long time, I didn't. And then 10 years ago, I started picking it back up again, just like with a little point and shoot. And I'm quite happy with some of the photos that took. And then I got an entry-level DSLR, and I took a bunch of rubbish photos for a very long time. And ruined a few vacations photos. Because I'm like, I know how to use it in manual. No, I really had no idea how to use it in manual. And it's just kind of in the last few years that I've really been picking it up more and more and making it more serious, I guess. So, yeah, the last 3 years, really being serious with it.
But it's still a hobby. This is not what you do for a living, is it?
It is not what I do for a living. It is a
Part
hobby.
of it.
It is part of
It's
it.
the design, so you use that as a tool to how you do now?
It's a tool in how I look at the world. So I do this thing called That's Wellington, which is kind of a photo series of random things I see around Wellington that kind of define Wellington for me. Like, I'm not from Wellington, I'm from Canada. So Wellington, seeing Wellington, I see it from kind of an outsider view. And one of the things I see a lot of around town are like people putting up stickers. And it's not just like a random printed sticker of some advertising thing. No, it's a sticker that someone has drawn on with marker and then put up. So it's art, right? It's not some signature. It's not a tag. It's literally drawings put up in the city.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is fascinating. This is amazing. So That's Wellington kind of became taking pictures of art. So carrying the camera informs that. It makes me look at the world in that way.
Yeah.
Is it my day job? No. My day job is typing.
Yeah. Typing.
Typing.
A bit more than typing.
Work at the
Well,
typing place.
So it's staring off into space and typing.
So you're a blogger type person?
No, I write programs, but
Yes,
a lot of writing programs
I was just being
is
cheeky to all the bloggers out there.
occasionally I blog.
Yeah.
No, programming is 90% staring off into space, 5% typing, and 5% talking to people.
Oh, yeah.
Roughly. I mean, it'll vary for everyone. That's how it works out for me.
So, Canada, so how long have you been in Wellington?
Just 4.5 years now.
Imagine you've been around for far longer than that. You've made
Just knows the
an
city
impression.
better.
I've made an impression.
This is excellent. Well, I think.
I think it's excellent. I'm quite happy with it.
And so, what brought you to? Don't say an airplane. What brought you? What brought you to Wellington? Ringo Starr. Yeah. A boat.
It wasn't a boat, it was an airplane, but I will not say an airplane. What brought me to Wellington was Weta Digital was hiring people that do the things that I do.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, would you hire me? And they said, yes. Would you like to come to Wellington? And I said, yes, I will do that thing. And then I sold all of my things and gave them all away and had an entire apartment full of things that I no longer own back in Calgary, where I'm from. And then I had 2 suitcases and I came to Wellington, and that was it.
You literally up sticks, and not literally up sticks, but that's it. I'm gone.
That's it, I'm gone.
And how long between? Can I have a job, please? Yes, you can. Oh, welcome to Burma.
6 months.
And
So-
how did that go down? Bye.
Yeah, there was a bit of like, what, you're doing what? In my friends in Calgary,
yeah.
they were...
Where's
they
New
were-
Zealand?
Where's New... a little bit of that.
Where you go? Space? Where you go?
Basically. It was just... I saw a job opening, I applied. They said yes a couple months after I had applied, just because hiring people takes a while.
Yeah.
Then it took a while to get the visa. Part of it was medical things, because medical visas are obnoxious. Part of it was the Christchurch earthquake kind of threw everything off kilter for a while.
Yes, of course.
And then, yeah, I showed up one day.
Here I am. Yes.
Here I am.
And what do you do? What did you do then? And so what was that job? And
What I did at Weta was, how much can I say with the NDAs?
yeah, well, true. There was
She makes the
electricity.
movies, all right? That's all you need to know.
No, I can't talk
makes-
about what I did do. What I did at Weta was called production engineering, which is, say you're an artist and you've made a model, and you save that out to disk. Production engineering dealt with the tooling that took that model and gave it to texturing, and kept the association that when texturing painted that model, it was that version of that model that that artist had made. So if they changed the model later, the system would know that the texturing had to go and adjust their painting for this new model, and so on and so forth. So when you got all the way down the line to a final rendered scene, you could point at everything that went into that scene and say, it was this.
And you were part of the crew that built the system to look after all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You-
what I did.
Not. So prior to that, is that what you did? You worked in the movie industry, or
No, this was my first movie industry job. Prior to that, I wrote web backends. And kind of the implementation of doing that at ProdEng was writing web backends. Just because that's kind of the way everything gets written now, is everything is a web server. Even if it's not serving web pages, it's still speaking HTTP, and it's still talking with JSON, and it's using all of these tools and all of these ways of designing software. So it was basically doing that for this one particular area, which was not necessarily a web page, but needed those tooling and technologies.
Yeah. So prior to that, then?
Prior to that, I was
In Canada.
Prior to that, I was in Canada doing actually not that much.
Stuff. Just bumming around.
Well,
Wait, but you.
contracting, learning
We're
to
so
program.
rarely hire people going, yeah, I can do that. Can you? Not really.
Well, I did 4 years of writing web pages and going, hey, I actually know how to design databases and make those perform well and do that thing.
Yeah.
I was working at a small database consultancy. And then before that, I was just doing random contracting, learning to program.
Yeah.
Actually learning how to program.
Yeah.
Which is hard, it turns out. 10 years in, you forget, oh yeah, this is easy, right? Nah.
Have you looked at any of your old code?
Yes, it's terrible.
Enough.
It's so awful.
I've got some code that I have to say. I do.
Who's this today, right?
I'm doing it now. I'm cringing about. Oh my god! And I was so proud. And it was in production, and it was like, oh my god!
I know.
They actually put that out.
I had a thing in production for like 10 years, and after the first 3, I'm like, oh god, this is so bad. Why did I do these things?
Yeah. How did they let me do that? But you don't know.
I didn't know. My hubris was off the charts back then. Like, I knew everything, right? I knew all the things, and I was fine, and I was good at what I do. No. I have much less hubris now. I will happily assert I don't actually know what I'm doing. I have a rough idea of where I'm going, what we're doing, but that's the best it gets.
So not weta anymore?
No, I left weta about 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I was working
You were at Catalyst, weren't you?
Yes, I was at Catalyst IT for a year,
Yeah.
helping bring up their OpenStack cloud. So Catalyst Cloud,
yes.
I was a part of that. So that was cool.
Very. But no longer there.
No longer there.
Brings me to. Oh, was there
That was Able Tech.
something
There
in
was
between?
Able Tech in between there.
Yeah.
So at
Nigel listens to the show, I believe. Nigel Rand.
oh, does he?
Yeah.
Hi, Nigel. At Able, so after
The other one.
At Catalyst, working on the OpenStack Cloud was a lot of doing automation and deployment engineering. Like, how do we bring up a cloud? How do you deploy all the pieces in order across 8 different servers? This is what is this? Which is kind of its own unique area outside of conventional programming. And we don't really think about that nearly as much as possibly we should. Though it's becoming more and more of a thing. I left Catalyst because, and I will totally talk about this more, I burnt out and got super depressed and basically collapsed in on myself.
Wow.
And that was not fun.
No.
And it wasn't because of Catalyst. Like, Catalyst was fine. This was a long burning thing that just
Yeah.
kind of hit a peak that happened to be at Catalyst. So they were great people. It's not their fault. It was completely me.
Just working yourself too hard.
Well, via weta, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, not even weta. It's
Really? I
weta
said that with an exclamation mark as well. Really?
interrobangs.
Yeah. Weta?
It's actually not weta's fault either. It's systemic problems within tech. So as a woman in tech, I suffer a lot from imposter syndrome and this idea that I don't know what I'm doing. If I'm around people who I see as more competent than me or more knowledgeable than me, I will spend a considerable amount of time and energy trying to keep up, even though I have my own sphere of knowledge that they don't. I can't see that. I see their external goodness and their external face of I am awesome versus my internal insecurities, right? That's how we look at the world.
Apples versus pears. That's
It
a
is
bit-
apples versus pears.
It's just madness. Yes.
It is, but
My
that's
internal versus your external.
Yeah.
That's harsh.
yeah.
Wow.
But that's what people do, right?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. So I was contributing to my own burnout in this way by considering myself not good enough, beating myself up, thinking I had to do more than I was doing and all this whole time. And burning out was the result of that. So I guess you could say weta exacerbated that because I was working with lots of cool, smart people who I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. These people are so much better than me. I am rubbish. Why did they hire me? I'm going to get fired any minute now.
They'll find me out.
They'll find me out.
Yes.
These-
Today might be the day.
Exactly.
God, stress levels. Yeah.
It is a constant, ongoing, burning stress.
Yeah.
So I burnt out and took 2 months off.
So you left Weta
I left Weta, went
to go to another place that has awesome people. Just gone to a shit place, mate. That's what you should have done. Where's
the best.
crap?
Where's crap?
Yeah.
The
government.
Well, you'll be the goddess there, right? You just own it.
Agency.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be all right. But there, and then you just went, boom.
And then I just went, fell apart.
Wow.
It wasn't fun.
No.
It really isn't fun. I don't recommend it. I just do not recommend it.
And when you did that, or when you did that, or when it happened to you, I don't know what's the best way of saying it.
When it happened to me, like when it hit the point where I could no longer not deal with it, and I could no longer function, I guess. Like I couldn't get up in the morning and go to work.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because work was bad, it was because just the thought of getting up was so overwhelmingly dark and negative that I just laid there.
Yeah.
And was like, this is what I'm going to do today. And then that contributes to its own feelings of rubbish. Like, I can't even get up. What's wrong with me? I am useless and worthless. It's this downward spiral, of awfulness.
I'll say through it now. Is that a fair thing to say?
Mostly through it.
Yeah.
Mostly through it. Like, there's always touches of the imposter syndrome, not feeling like I know what I'm doing. It turns out running a business, you have no idea what you're doing.
No one does.
At any point in the entire process. It's just like, what's going on? I have no idea.
Just
You
make it
seem
up
much
as you
more
go.
comfortable with the I don't know than possibly that you were.
I am a lot more comfortable with I don't know,
Yeah.
because I don't know. And if I say I don't know, then I'm not giving the imposter syndrome anywhere to catch hold of, right? Because it'll grow on this idea of I don't know, but they think I do know, and I have to prove that I know to them, and it becomes that recursive cycle. Whereas if I say I don't know, I got nothing, then I can then follow that up with, I can look that up for you, or I can then follow it up with, what do you think?
Yeah.
And then I learn, and you learn that I don't know what I'm doing. And then your imposter syndrome, theoretically, if you had it, I don't know if you do, maybe you do, is assuaged because you were thinking, oh, I had this amazing idea of Aurynn as being this amazing person who's cool, and she's like, no, I got nothing. She doesn't know. I saw a talk at PyCon US in 2014 by Julie Pagano, I think that's how you say her name, where she basically said, kill your heroes. Not literally, but the idea being that people you are idolizing have faults and have flaws, and while you're idolizing them, you don't see them. And it creates that kind of imposter syndrome structure because you're not seeing their bad sides.
Yep.
You're seeing that external good face and comparing it to your internal flawed face.
Very true. Well, my father told me years ago, they all shit out the same hole as you, Mike. Don't worry about that. It's a different way of putting it, I've got to say.
That
But
is a different way of putting it.
it's basically the same. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, the gist is there.
Yeah.
Just as there.
It's not the same hole, by the way. It's a similar hole, but there you go. My father didn't get the difference between those two.
I think everyone poops from the same hole.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know.
Well,
Who you are.
actually, no, you're right. Some people don't. Maybe we should edit this out.
When this burnout happened, and I did the joke with weather, but you know, in Miramar, you see a lot of people burn out from the workload that weather work under. And in IT and tech and young'uns and startups as well, it's not so common. It's not unusual to hear that story.
It's pretty common within the Silicon Valley kind of narrative of, oh, you need to work these 100 hours, and if you do, your 5% worth of equity will turn into these millions of dollars because we'll sell for $1 billion to somebody because we have this amazing valuation, and therefore you will get compensated. Which is basically a lie. It is venture capitalists making money on the sweat and labor of young people.
Yes, I agree.
And the secondary effect of that is if you're spending your entire life programming, then what is that doing to you? As just in terms of your physical body, in terms of your social relationships, in terms of what you're going to do next. You're not developing, you're writing programs. couldn't do that. And my ability to write programs drops precipitously after 35 hours, so
More staring than coding.
more staring than coding.
Yeah, and no talking.
And no talking.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, I don't agree with that kind of model of work yourself as hard as you can, because you do burn out.
Yeah.
It just happens.
And the quote-unquote successes in my mind are the ones that happened to make it through or get caught early, because if they hadn't, they would have burnt out. I mean, most people burn out. But the
And-
successes are when I say success, it's that quote-unquote success that you talk about, that someone bought them for $1 billion or $6.50, which is not a success necessarily. But that's the story that everyone hears. No one hears about all the other 99% that didn't.
Yeah, we never hear about the 99% who didn't, the 99% whose companies failed and didn't make any money, the 99% who worked 100 hours for 6 months and had nothing to show for it at the end. And everything burned away. We're told these stories of the people who did succeed because they're the stories we want to hear. We want to believe that we're special enough to be like them.
Yes.
Even though statistically it is highly unlikely that we will be.
Yes. And 99%, who knows?
The more we talk about it, the more it sounds like lotto to me, really, in the end. It's like
Yeah.
a big lottery.
It is.
Yeah.
And some of the dialogue in Silicon Valley, like the critics, are starting to call it the startup lottery.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what it's called, the startup
it is.
Well, there
lottery.
you go.
Yeah.
And that a business model, view of the world, is certainly something that has come to New Zealand, obviously. It's interesting as well, I think it's interesting. Fail fast is one of the key tenets. Everyone says, fail fast, fail often, fail fast. But you never hear about that. Everyone says you should, and 80% possibly do, but no one ever tells that story. I did it. I did it. I failed fast. That's not a story you ever hear for some reason.
We don't like to talk about our failures.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
embarrassing and all that sort of thing.
it's embarrassing. It's like, it's not super interesting of a story sometimes. Like,
Well, yeah.
is it going to be an interesting story if I tell you about the 1,000 photos I took that didn't turn out?
Yeah.
But what would be interesting is what you learned from those 1,000 that you took that didn't turn out.
Yeah, and that's a harder story to tell because you have to sit down and go, why didn't this work?
Yeah.
Deconstruct it, analyze it, write think pieces for a while, and then figure it out like a year later.
Yeah.
What went wrong? Why did it go wrong? And that's a harder story.
That is. I've only ever heard it once. Someone talked, and exactly that someone who sat and went, okay, that failed, why? And then told the story.
Yeah.
Interesting. Through the burnout, did you attract others? Did you hear other people's stories?
I did, because I started talking a lot about it, like being depressed, enduring burnout, like not being able to do anything. And I just started hearing stories coming back.
Yeah.
Or I guess that's not the right way of saying it. I started being more aware of other people going through it and listening for those stories versus having them coming to me.
Yeah.
So I started hearing them because I was listening.
Yeah.
And it's fairly common. A lot of people I know have gone through it. A lot of people struggle with imposter syndrome, struggle with depression, struggle with feeling inadequate within tech.
Do you think it's a tech thing?
I think it's a general thing. I think tech is just bad at talking.
Is it because of the pace that we seem to run in, and tech seems to be a faster industry than others? Is that a reason why? Because everyone's playing catch up all the time?
Yeah.
Non-stop, you don't stop doing it.
Feeling like you have to play catch up, which then encourages
Everyone does it then. So
everyone does it,
vicious
no one
circle.
talks about it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
becomes a vicious circle.
Yeah.
There's also problems with expressions of emotion being considered may not be the right word, but seeming to be less valued in tech. So people just don't talk about how they're feeling. Like, I'm feeling burnt out. Well, you're not going to say that if you're in an environment which doesn't value the fact that you might be burnt out, because no one will hear it, or you'll be made fun of for it. So you just don't say it.
It's sad for our industry then, isn't it?
Well, in an industry that's quote unquote creative.
Yeah.
I mean, I know my friends who don't want to tech always see it as robots with ones and noughts. I mean, it's like a bad image, but that's, we have images of scientists. They've got big hair and they've got wear coats and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's bullshit as anything, but that's the image that I have. The image of tech, of course, is sort of that, whenever there's a story and stuff about hackers, it's a darkened hood person holding holds over laptop, it's like, okay, well, it's bullshit, but there you go. So that's the image, which is very ones and noughts, very male, very ones and noughts and very logistical. Whereas that 80% staring into space is creative, I suggest.
Yeah.
So majority of tech, not all of it, it's a creative industry.
It's
However, we're not allowed to talk emotions.
we're not allowed to talk emotions. We're not allowed
Quite hard
to.
for creativity, isn't it?
We're so.
It's not a question.
No, I know.
That's a
I
blast.
have some, I have some things I want to say.
Yes, please.
I read this great book recently, about 3 months, I would say 3 months ago, called The Unwritten Laws of Engineering, which was written in the 40s and updated in the 90s. And I read the 90s updated version, which is basically how to be an engineer in an organization. And from this book that was updated in the 90s, written in the 40s, two things in the whole book didn't hold up today. And the writing was very much styled in the 40s style of writing, so a lot of it was probably just a little bit expanded, but not necessarily like rewritten wholesale. And the entirety of the book was basically, we can teach anyone engineering. That is not hard. What is hard is teaching people to talk to each other and respect each other. And that was the entirety of the book, basically.
Wow.
It was all of these various ways in which to interact with other people and respect them and respect their abilities and not be a dick in a professional environment, basically.
Yeah.
That was it. They were like, these are the
Wow.
things you need to know. And
People need to read that. A lot of people need to read that book.
a lot of people need to read
Yeah.
that book. And I read this book and I was like, this applies so much to software. So much, because we don't talk to each other with respect. We have the Linux kernel, which is this mired, toxic wasteland of verbal abuse. And this is a common story in open source, is that particular story. And it's changing now, thankfully, through a lot of efforts around pushing codes of conduct. But that was the story for a very long time. And I forgot where I was going with this.
That's right. So going back to Linux, of course, and I'm not her name. She left, did the big fuck it, I'm out of here.
Sarah Sharp.
Yes, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago.
2 weeks, I would say.
Which I just went, oh, that's so awesome, because something you're passionate about, you love. And it's awesome that she went, I've got better values than this, and I'm out of here. It's horrible that she had to do it. Go to the top. Any organisation, any community it's my view, the culture is set from the top, because that's why you join. And we've got that man at the top who just...
The man at the top who doesn't get it, and it's usually a man not getting it.
Yeah.
Somebody said, I think it was David Heinemeier, I think that's how you say his name, one of the people who worked on Rails, who invented Rails, said, culture isn't what you say, it's what you do. So anyone can talk a big game. It's much harder to say, actually, this is bullshit, don't do this in our community. Or if you are doing this, get out.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say that. So it's not what you say you're going to do, it's what you do.
What you actually do, yeah.
And
I hear that.
I could go on about unexamined privilege and all of those things, but I would be here for unexamined privilege.
Oh, you have to talk about that now. What's that about?
Oh, so unexamined privilege is okay. What's the default human? What does society say the default human is?
Right now.
If you look in the mirror, do you see a person?
Do I see a person?
Yeah.
No. Well, I see an awesome person.
You see an awesome
No, I
person.
see me.
Right. When you go to the movies, do you see people that look like you?
Mostly.
If I go to the movies, do I see people that look like me?
I don't know what movies you go to see.
It's the same movies everyone sees, right? I saw The Martian recently, which was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. Happy to talk about that because it was a great movie.
Yeah. However.
How many people looked like me?
I haven't seen it, I don't know.
How many people look like you? Let's
Careful, he
rephrase
thinks he does look like Matt Damon, so...
How many people...
I don't know the answer, but I suspect.
So I can think of two... So Matt Damon's the obvious one.
Yes.
There's the director of
People in that
NASA.
movie.
There's all the dudes.
There's all of the
Mission
People
Control.
backwards.
Oh, you said it.
It's all the dudes.
I use guys as well,
But that's the point,
not
right?
folks.
A lot of men, I won't just say men, a lot of people internalize this idea that Western society tells us that white men are the default. White men are the stand-in for everyone. They are the every person. I'm obviously not a white man. I am white, so I get some of that. Because I can say, white people are the default, which is a huge amount of unexamined privilege, right? White people are not the default, but they are within Western society. So you will see The Martian, which had a fairly diverse cast, more or less. She says, trying to remember and failing. But other movies will not. And this is a rather common thing. It's predominantly men. And this is not because of overt sexism. They're not going, we will not have any women. It is because, how do we make this the most identifiable based on the stories that I have been told subconsciously by society? The subconscious story that society tells us is that white men are the default. So, we tend to populate our things with white men because they're the default. Everyone can relate to them. Rather, everyone has been taught to relate to them from a young age. That is unexamined privilege. And so the unexamined privilege part of that is not looking at media and saying, does everyone get to identify with that? That is a privilege that you have not identified, that you have. That you get to look at the thing and say, that is me, whereas I don't. And this is something Raj can identify with. Like, he is not a white man. He does not get to identify with that. That central, I am the hero, where you do.
I do.
So, and I therefore, I can't identify, or I identify with the hero is always white. Even though intellectually I know, holy shit, the way we are whitewashing history and the way we are whitewashing our narratives is a fucking travesty. Like that movie about Egypt recently, where all of the stars, Christian Bale was in it.
Oh, with the Moses one.
Yeah, the Moses one.
Okay.
Yeah. All the stars of this movie about ancient Egypt, where everyone there is very dark-skinned, all the stars were white.
Yes.
All the bad guys were not white. But all the stars were white.
Yes.
I find the same thing about in Disney movies, right? It's freaking me out, to be honest. All the bad guys have English accents. All the good guys do not.
We were just talking about that earlier today.
Really? Yeah, freaked me out. I thought, wait a minute. Every time I hear it, and I called it out on Twitter last year or something, everyone said, yeah, well. And then they're still doing it though, right?
That's not a Disney thing. That started in the 80s as well with the action hero stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There was a lot of all the baddies were suddenly English players.
Interesting,
the person I was talking to about it said basically, there's a film studies paper in here.
Disney characters never have all the Disney films don't have parents or something as well, or the mother's always gone. Is it the mother?
Is there?
Yeah, there's something every movie. And that's not a thing you need to go work out. You just go Google it.
Oh, so Aladdin, for example, where's the mum? Yeah.
There's lots of mums have gone, or they're the evil stepmom, or it's all about mothers being not there and or.
Mermaid, she's not there. Lion King, she is there in Lion King, but she's a lion. So I'm not sure that counts.
Still a mum.
Still a mum.
Yeah.
But why was there just one? Don't lions give birth to litters? I don't know, actually.
I have no idea.
I
mean, there is a point where you go, it is a cartoon, not a documentary, and we do just need to tell a different story. Otherwise, go watch a David Attenborough thing. If you want to get the actually, then. So what do I do?
What do you do? It's really...
Not because I'm a lion. What do I do to just try and connect back to the conversation as a white man?
Well, as a lion, you want to not be a lion.
Yes. Okay.
Or you want to not eat meat.
Yes. Okay.
I would like to not be eaten.
Be less grumpy, basically. The lion.
Honestly, because there's so much basically cultural pressure all of the time saying, this is normal, this is fine, rejecting that is really hard. And the best you can do is really go and look at the things you were consuming and say, how does this center, or who does this center, right? Who is the important people within this? Is the important person white? Is it male? Is it cisgender? Like things like that. And in doing that, and looking at things that way, you just start, it's just a matter of seeing how societies stories are structured. And then we start to see how people are marginalized, how people get pushed to the edges of that. You can never see it the way I could see it, and that's okay. It's okay to not see it the way I can see it. But it's not okay to say what I experience is real. And that's kind of the difference.
Do people say that?
Yeah, some people do say it. Some people say that what I experience isn't real. Some people say that racism isn't real. I know, right?
I'm a little bit stunned.
Those dudes with the hoods would agree.
Yes.
And that's overt, right? But it's never overt racism. Or never is the wrong word. There is overt racism, and we go, oh yeah, that's racist.
Yeah.
But when we say things like, not even say things, when American media tells us that a black person is likely to rob us, we internalize that and we go, okay, I'm going to move away from this black person in an in general sense because I'm more afraid of them, right? Society is priming us to be afraid. That's racism. That's not overt racism. That's the accumulation of cultural pressures within ourselves. So it's not just one black person has been portrayed as a criminal. It's a bunch of black people have been portrayed as criminals. Is the media portraying black people as criminals? We internalize that. We have now perpetuating racism, even though we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say, I am not racist. That is how society is structuring itself. It's kind of shit. And that is the best one I can point at. Coming from Canada, the Native peoples have a fairly difficult time with alcoholism, and there was a bunch of the initial research, quote unquote, stated that was because of some genetic reasoning, right? Which they recently showed was false. It is a response to trauma. And the point being that the First Peoples in Canada and the U.S. have been vastly, badly traumatized by the basically genocidal actions of Canada and the U.S. And being pushed into reservations and all of these things happening. So the racist story is, oh yeah, they're just more susceptible to it because of their genes. They're not as good as we are.
If you kill half of them, the rest of them will go out and get pissed because they just want to fucking wipe it out. No, it's because that's what they do, because they are
genetically inferior, right?
Yeah. That's just them reasoning all that bullshit to themselves.
Yeah.
White men.
I really badly paraphrased that, so you should go look up the research.
Yeah.
People.
Is that view that you come from? Is that something that you actively work? Want to change? Is it a thing that you do? Is it you speak about? Because you talk about it now, obviously, on our wee little podcast, which is nice. But is it more to that? Is it a thing? I don't know what to say. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you've got your new company.
Yep.
Which is pronounced
IARA.
Is it built into the DNA of the company? That view, or is it?
Well, currently it's just me, so yes.
But when
the company believes what I do.
When it grows, and, in 6 months' time, when you sell it for $1 billion because you've worked 100 hours a week, blah blah blah.
When I become a unicorn.
That's right, exactly.
Winning and nailing it at the same time.
I want it to be, and the result of that is I read a lot about how we can do better at hiring, how we can do better about being diverse in our hiring practices, reading about the subtle ways in which racism and sexism influence the hiring process. So, for instance, an identical resume with a female name and a male name, to use a sexist example, the female name is statistically considerably less likely to get a callback or an interview. The same has been shown with Indian-sounding names, with black-sounding names, right? How do I address that as part of my hiring process when I get to the hiring process? I don't know. So I read research about that, like ways in which these things happen.
Yeah. But you're thinking about it, and it's just within you, and then therefore, if and when, I'm not saying your company has to grow, but if it does,
I'd like it to.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. You got it. It will become part of it.
Yes, that's
because from the top, that's who we are. That's just the way we do it. And if you don't, there's the door. There you go.
Yes. It's not what you say, it's what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not always enough to be aware. Like, we can be aware of a thing, some fallacy in our cognition, and still do that thing. I'd be like, I'm completely not doing this racist thing, and then still do it unconsciously without critically examining ourselves.
Okay. Sorry to tear you away. Back to Aurynn in a minute. We just want to talk about our upcoming party. Yep, we're having a party. Well, we're co-hosting a party alongside the fine folks at Hack Miramar. Mike, you know these guys, eh?
I do.
And the community over at Geek Zone. It's going to be a cracking evening at 4th of December, Friday afternoon. We're going to have live music, beer, prizes.
Well, beer if you pay for it.
Oh,
Just
you
be
pay.
aware.
Your beer is available.
Beer's available.
Yeah.
Hack Miramar, I understand, are paying for the food.
Okay.
But you have to get your own.
Maybe I can see what I can do about the beverage situation.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
hopefully. Yeah, it's going to be great. And we've only got 100 people available. We've got 100 tickets, right, on
That's correct.
Little Reggie. And so you can find the link on accessgranted.nz and jump on in.
And there are prizes.
Yeah.
And so Mauricio
Yeah.
from Geek Zone has been working on prizes. He's already put up a bunch of smartphones that will be available. He's working on a few more. And I believe there's going to be some announcement very soon about something to do with Uber.
Oh,
That's
is
very,
that right?
very cool. He's doing a
That
great
man is
job.
a machine. Now, our contribution, of course, is going to be a live podcast. So we'll take about 15, 20 minutes of people's time with a panel of our greatest and awesomest people that we've talked to over the year or so. And we'll have a quick panel session and broadcast the hell out of that.
So massive thanks also to our second local sponsor, All Accounted For. And we're so thankful for the support from them already. Thanks, Ben. And you can hear him talk on show 68. Ben really knows his stuff. And of course to Capiche Design and Grant. And we're so proud to have them on board. Thank you, and check them out at capiche.co.nz. And the sound quality and our ability to run the show has greatly increased because of our support from both All Accounted For and Capiche. So we thank them so much.
Life is easier
than
previous.
Some more event news next week, but for now, back to Aurynn and her incredible journey. So we're talking about, where your company's going to go and how it's going to grow, and it's going to have it because you'll be at the top, quote unquote.
Culture of the company.
Culture coming to that.
Yeah.
Is there are you aware of any companies in tech in New Zealand, Wellington specifically, that has that already? Is the hero one? You look at it and go, there you go.
Rabbit Technologies, who at the Inspiral Space are really focused on this kind of improving diversity, being part of the broader diversity conversation.
Yeah.
They are the ones I would look at and go, they are cool. And I'm certain there's others, I'm just not immediately aware of them. I don't know everybody.
Yes.
You should talk to Brenda Wallace. She knows everybody.
Yeah.
She's pretty cool. And I'm certain that there are. There's other people I know in New Zealand who talk about this stuff. I know this conversation happens at Catalyst. I know this conversation is happening with people that I know, individuals. I don't know to what extent it is in their company.
Yeah.
But I know people are talking about this.
Yeah.
Because they're part of my circle and we talk about this stuff and we try to push this forwards. So it's not just me.
Yeah.
I'm just the currently vocal, and by currently vocal I mean right here, right now, on this podcast talking about this stuff.
Absolutely. So your company?
Yes. I do a thing.
What is that thing?
I'm going to spell it. So
that
people go to the website, you see.
Oh, yes.
www.eiia.nz. .nz is the way to go.
It is the way to go. You gotta get the .nz.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now it says here, I feel like an old man. Look at me.
Why are you leading so far back? Trying to read that card, Mike?
I can read it for you.
It's because it's grey on grey. That's what I
It's
said.
not grey on grey. It's dark grey on grey. No, it's dark grey on kind of a brownie shade.
Yes.
Oh, you're fine then, Mike. What's the problem?
DevOps consulting.
Yes.
Meaning, who's your clients? Who are your clients? But what sort of
your
clients
ideal
come to you?
client?
Yeah.
My ideal client. So, okay, well, first I should just say what DevOps consulting is, because
That's probably a good question. You should have said that.
because it's kind of a new thing, right? This whole DevOps thing. What is it even? So one of the things I learned at the very tail end of Weta, and then entirely at Catalyst, and then entirely at AbleTech when I was there, was caring a lot about deployments and automation of deployments, and how do we make deployments repeatable? How do we make deployments usable in a repeatable fashion? So you've got a website, right? You've written it on Rails or something, and you make it, and you're like, I want to push that to the web. I want people to use that. How do you do that? There's a bunch of tools, a bunch of ways to do that.
Got a button, isn't it?
Yeah.
I build the button. That is what I do. I build a button that says, do it. And then it does it. And then you can say, okay, this is the one I pushed on this date, and it is version 1. And then tomorrow I want to push out version 1.1 because there were some bugs. Right? Okay, I can write the program that says, okay, we're here and we want to get there. How do we do that usefully? How do we do that in a way that lets us go back to version 1 when the version 1.1 we pushed out catches fire because we did something else that was broken?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what DevOps consulting is. And then growing from there into a system where you've just checked into source control and it does the entire build stage and then the deployment stage into the dev environment so that you can say, oh, I can test this right away on a relatively production-like environment.
Yeah.
And then tooling and training around doing that on your desktops. You're not just like installing Rails directly, you're building it into a VM that when you break it, because you break it all the time, you can destroy it and rebuild it, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
Because you've not done anything custom. So the whole DevOps thing and the whole cloud thing is all about treating your servers and your deployments as cattle, right? They're not pets. They're not something that you hand raised. It's a thing that you pushed a button and cows spat out the side.
Oh, so it's not free range DevOps then. Yeah.
That's production, mate.
Yeah,
It's
just some sort of sausage factory production.
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Well, it is.
Is that
That's
right?
a fascinating thing to say.
Just automating.
Free range DevOps?
No, they're not pets.
Yeah.
They're just cattle.
Yeah.
Because that is how it has been.
And that's
People love and care and tend, we used to call them tin huggers.
Super huggers.
And they
Yeah,
loved them
Yeah.
Yeah.
with a passion. Because they were, pets.
they were.
I've built this to that point where I get it. Everything about it. And it's like, no, whatever.
Well,
Just
yeah,
the box.
okay. You've got one of them. Now I want another 10.
Yeah.
Because I need to scale right now.
Yeah.
Because I've been hit by Hacker News or Reddit, and I'm getting 1,000 connections a second. I need more of these. Well, I can't wait 2 days for you to reprovision that or make me 2.
Yes.
I need them now.
Yes.
Right now. Make me more. And that's what DevOps is the tooling and the processes and the culture around doing that. And not treating them as pets, treating them as cattle, treating them as I need 1,000 right now, but I don't need 1,000 in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
How do I make that happen?
So today is, what's the day today?
Thursday, the 15th.
15th. This is when we had the earthquake.
Oh, yeah,
testing
this morning.
thing. What was
yeah.
it called? 9:50?
Shakeout.
Shakeout, yeah.
So if you went to shake.gov.nz this morning, it
They
didn't
did have
work.
an issue. Yes. They tweeted
Because
out.
they told the whole of New Zealand,
You should go to this site.
you should go to this site, and it went...
Yes.
So
This
in your
happens.
world, you'd have gone, yeah, whatever.
In my world,
Right now,
yeah,
I need...
1,000 of these
Yes,
machines.
and probably at 10:15, I don't. But they were probably, I don't know, but come from that world of, I've loved and cared this machine.
The
get
server
this
should
thing.
be able to handle it. But it
Or
didn't.
we've got 5 servers, and that's
Yeah,
what we've
they don't
provisioned.
handle
It should
it.
be fine.
And
We've
they're-
load tested this.
And they're all special and glorious.
Yeah. No,
Stickers on them and
Yeah.
everything.
I have a piece of code that sits in front of that and goes, this is ticking over the thresholds that I have set because we tested this thing earlier. Let's start making some more ones before it gets to the point where it will stop responding. And it'll just keep growing outwards until it can handle the load.
Yeah.
And you can just do that. The cloud lets us do that.
Is that a new... No, we go cloud. I mean, cloud is... There are the obvious organisations, the Googles, the Amazons, the Microsofts of the world, who are at various maturities of doing that because that's become, or it was always their business, and countless now. But for majority of IT departments, this is just a freaking new world, is it not? Is it?
It is, for a lot of IT departments, very new. A lot of it was about buying physical kit that you put in your data center, and it takes a couple of weeks to provision because you have to wait for the box to get here and then plug it in and then set it up by hand. And a lot of the initial DevOps tooling has been around making it so that in that last stage, plugging it in and getting it configured is easier, and that's config management tooling.
Yeah.
And the cloud is kind of disrupting that whole idea. So instead of like the datacom model where you order a server and a server shows up in 3 weeks, you order a server.
a long time, isn't it?
It can be a long time to get tin, and that's not even real tin. That's a virtual piece of kit.
Far out.
No, you were thinking a box appears.
Yeah, I was thinking a box shows up from the bloody UPS.
Yeah.
But,
No, you've got, and so in the modern world, I can write a little program that talks to Amazon, and it makes me 1,000 machines, right? Programs haven't been built like that. So this is a completely new world for a lot of dev teams, a lot of IT teams. How do I deal with the fact that all of my admins knew how all these machines work because they set them up? To my admins maybe don't know how, or maybe can't log into all of these machines and know how they're set up because I have 1,000 of them. How do I have like one admin or two admins deal with 1,000 machines?
Yeah.
It's kind of a different world.
Yeah.
a DevOps consultant, I'd say.
You need someone to come in and say, this is how we do it, and this is the culture and processes you need to make it work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I do.
And that's what you do.
That's what I do. And I help set up the config management. I help set up the tooling that they need to manage 1,000 servers.
Yeah.
If they need 1,000.
Yeah.
Some people don't.
Yeah.
But the point is you can grow from I have one server to I have 10 servers to I have 100 servers, and they're slightly different.
Yeah.
And then setting up staging versus production versus QA versus all of these things in a way that is repeatable. And you can move between them. And by the time you get to production, it's the same as the thing that you had in QA. And the QA people signed off on.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of hard when you're not dealing with a DevOpsy workflow, where QA signed off on this particular build. Can you guarantee that that build, exactly as it is configured, all the way down to the hardware it's sitting on, to the network it's attached to, is the same? With DevOps and the cloud, you can. With classical processes, it's much, much harder to make those assurances and make those guarantees.
Yeah. So, is anyone, either with you or that you know of, trying to do that themselves? Or is it all Amazon-y, cloudless, cloudy, that? Or is someone saying, I can do that with the boxes I've got, I can run 1,000 virtual servers? Because there are some fairly biggish companies around that have got quite big boxes.
You can't. I mean, VMware will sell you a product, right? They'll sell you vSphere, which is, a virtual machine hosting product. Okay.
So we had a break.
Yes.
We had some more beers. Then we had quite possibly a fantastic conversation that we should, every 10 seconds we should record this.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to get Aurynn back and we're going to have a repeat of that conversation, which will be impossible. It's a bit like saying, what a party, let's do it again.
Yeah.
We'll have a party, and it'll be a slightly different party, but it'll still be a great party,
We'll
right?
cover the same things. They have the same snack food. So, yeah. We'll be
So we covered off advertising, there was something
bit
else.
of privacy in there.
Privacy,
So we will
Platforms.
absolutely.
Yeah.
the security threat of Android within the world. The last Stage Fright release, I think they said they could patch 5% of phones. 5%!
It's not good to
They
say
can
out
get
loud, is it?
5%. If that. Almost 1 billion phones cannot be patched. And this is a silent...
She did the face.
I did the face. I did the... What the hell? This is acceptable. This is the background level of acceptability within the tech culture. This is amazingly bad.
So we'll be talking more about that later. Can you feel the passion in the conversation? It was a brilliant conversation. But we do need to
go.
Aurynn,
Yes.
where can people find you so that they can ask the questions of you? Where can they find you online?
You can find me at iara.nz, that is EIARA.nz. I also have Aurynn.com, which is great because it's my name. It's easy to find me.
Aurynn.com, that is so cool.
I know, I can be like self at Aurynn.com or anything at Aurynn.com. You just like you at Aurynn.com and it will get to me, which is actually really good. And that's kind of where I occasionally blog stuff, is at Aurynn.
Yes.
And then I'm on Twitter as at Aurynn.
Is Twitter the thing? Is that the place that people will sort of, see the conversations over?
Twitter is the place where I talk about stuff and I yell about feminist things and basically make noise.
Yep.
And have opinions.
Awesome.
Ask me about them.
That's what Twitter's all about, making noise.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Aurynn. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Brilliant. And we will...
And to be continued.
Absolutely, this is a to be continued.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Aurynn has many passions and she's so knowledgeable, especially when it comes to DevOps. So we plan on having her on more often. We'll see how we go with that.
Oh, I so hope so.
Yeah,
I so hope
I love how she
Aurynn
sort of challenged you a tad.
Yes,
It's fun.
and to be fair, we did turn the recording device off at one point because we had pizzas and what have you, and it got quite, not heat is the right phrase.
The debate continued.
It certainly did. It was brilliant. So I'm so hopeful that Aurynn will agree to come on the show more often.
Yeah. And next week we have Kendall Flutie. She started the app Banker. Or was it the platform Banker?
Oh, it starts as an app, Banker?
Yeah. So that's a financial literacy platform for kids, and we'll talk more about that next week.
And her story is quite amazing. And she's 12. No,
Yeah, she's about 14 something.
That's unfair. Sorry, Kendall.
We're just old, that's the problem. We're just old, yeah.
Everyone looks 12. Find us on the social networks. Look for the podcast on Twitter at AccessGrantedNZ, and of course on the Book Faces. Best way to chat with us is to use Twitter. I'm on at Miramar Mike.
And I'm at NZ Raj. And please rate us on iTunes. It helps us get a bit more noted out there. I noticed we're on new and noteworthy again on our new feed.
Fantastic.
So that's come up again. That's really nice. And that's
Thank
thanks
you.
to the people subscribing.
Thank you so much, everyone who's done that.
And thanks for your time, and see you next Tuesday for the Kiwi Tech people sharing their own stories.
Ka kite anō.